Mark, and in this webinar, I'm going to share some essential advice that you need to know before you decide if you are ready to invest in Bitcoin. There are so many investors who are still on the sidelines, afraid to get into Bitcoin, either believing that the opportunity to invest has passed, or even worse, still believing that Bitcoin is not a serious investment. And look, I understand. Bitcoin is a new asset class, and there is a big lack of education about what Bitcoin is and why it is such an interesting investment. This webinar will address some of the most common fears and most common concerns that new investors have about Bitcoin. And we'll also address why Bitcoin is something that you should be paying attention to. I'm so excited to share this knowledge with you. I have been investing in Bitcoin for years and I am incredibly passionate about spreading the word about Bitcoin. But just a few years ago, I was just like you, thinking, gosh, why didn't I invest in Bitcoin ages ago? I had thought that all the opportunities to make any kind of gains on Bitcoin had passed, and that it was too late to get in the game. Wow. Was I ever wrong? I started getting more and more involved with crypto investing and really just spending a lot of time learning about Bitcoin, all the intricacies of investing and how the technology works. And I have been growing a very successful portfolio over the last few years as a result of that research. But Bitcoin investing is certainly a very, very big learning curve. And of course, I made some mistakes and I did some things that I regretted. And today I want to share my knowledge with you so you don't make those mistakes and that you can save yourself a lot of time, a lot of money, and of course, a lot of disappointment by not repeating those mistakes. By the way, before we get started, make sure you have a pen and a paper available to write down some notes as we go along, because I will be sharing some really great and very important knowledge with you in this webinar, so make sure you're ready for that. So why should you care about Bitcoin anyway? Well, Bitcoin was the top performing asset of the last decade. And many analysts are saying that Bitcoin could be the best performing asset of this decade as well. Many investors are going to miss out on that. The savvy investors will be prepared. In fact, research has shown that over the last 5 years, investors who put just 1% of their investing portfolio into Bitcoin consistently outperformed investors who did not, achieving 9.2% annual gains versus 7.2% annual gains without. And the risk to reward ratio has been heavily in favor of Bitcoin. And that's just with 1% Bitcoin allocated to a portfolio. Investors who had 2% or 3% of their portfolio in Bitcoin had performances many magnitudes larger than portfolios with no Bitcoin exposure. Bitcoin is quickly becoming a staple of a healthy portfolio right alongside stocks and bonds and real estate and all of those more traditional assets. The savvy investors know these numbers and they are taking advantage while a lot of ordinary people are still sleeping on Bitcoin. And this fact has not escaped some of the world's biggest and most influential companies and investors. Let me share just a really small sampling of some of the companies that are getting into Bitcoin. And let's start off with the monster, Fidelity Investments. Fidelity, in case you don't know, is one of the largest asset management firms in the world. They have trillions of dollars worth of assets under their management. And they have more than 50,000 employees. That company, Fidelity is now offering Bitcoin to their customers in the USA and the UK. Microsoft, the computing giant, which of course needs no introduction at all, is building a digital identity service on top of the Bitcoin network. Then there is the Intercontinental Exchange, which is the owner of the New York Stock Exchange. They have launched a suite of different Bitcoin investment products, which are now traded on public markets like Bitcoin futures and Bitcoin's options contracts. The Intercontinental Exchange is also working with major brands like Starbucks to allow for easy payments at your favorite shops using Bitcoin. Then there is Square. Now, Square, in case you don't know, is a major financial services and merchant payment processing service founded by Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey. Now, Square has launched the very popular Cash App. The Cash App allows for easy peer-to-peer payments, much like PayPal or Venmo might, but it also sells Bitcoin to users of the platform. Then, of course, there is the Winklevoss twins of Facebook fame. They have launched Gemini, which is a highly regulated and fully compliant Bitcoin exchange. Then we have famous investor Peter Thiel, who has just invested millions in a large Bitcoin mining operation. Then there is Grayscale Investment Trust, which is a publicly traded stock and is fully regulated by the financial authorities. The global tech giant Samsung has decided to include Bitcoin wallets as a standard application on all future models of phones. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. There are so many other companies, so many other major investors all getting into Bitcoin. It's really quite crazy when you start to understand just how serious Bitcoin has become. As they say, follow the money. Look what the richest investors are doing with their money, and then ask yourself why you're not doing the same. You get to decide if you're going to follow the lead of those big companies and those successful investors, and if you will pay attention to the math. Remember, even 1% in your portfolio can help you achieve your financial freedom faster. I mean, seriously, if you dread Mondays and you live for Fridays, then chances are something in your life could use a little bit of a change. And maybe, just maybe, a little bit of diversity in your investing portfolio could give you the edge to help you achieve those goals sooner. Now let's move on to the core of this webinar and discuss the 4 mistakes that many new investors make when they first get into Bitcoin. Mistake number 1, believing that you can get rich overnight. Sadly, far too many people fall victim to the fallacy of believing that you can get rich overnight. The reality is that get-rich-quick schemes are just someone else getting rich off of you. Bitcoin rewards those investors with low time preferences. Bitcoin's more of a get-rich-slow kind of thing and has served as a tool for people just like you all over the world to be able to preserve their wealth and to build their wealth. But sadly, like many new technologies, Bitcoin has been the target of a whole lot of different fraudulent schemes promising overnight riches. The prevalence of these different frauds has unfortunately given Bitcoin a bad name by people who don't understand that these frauds had nothing to do with Bitcoin. Because that's the truth. Scams and frauds, they're always going to happen, and they're always going to exploit people's lack of education. They just used the name Bitcoin and then preyed on people's greed and preyed on people's ignorance to what Bitcoin is, defrauding the average Joe. It's very unfortunate, but as the old saying goes, a fool and his money will soon be parted. It is certainly true online, and it has been true online since the start of the internet. Now, an example of this is Bitcoin trading schemes, which promise incredibly high rates of return. Many investors have been burned by these frauds. The reality is that there was no magical trading bot, and that the rates of return like 20% a day should have been a massive red flag. No one can guarantee you a daily percentage of return like that. But greed takes over common sense, and unfortunately people lose big time. the number one best way to get exposure to Bitcoin is to buy Bitcoin from a reputable exchange and then to hold that Bitcoin in a wallet that you control. And then be patient. Bitcoin is a long game, and it is far from being too late to invest in Bitcoin. We're just getting started. And if you buy Bitcoin now, then in 5 years' time, your friends will think that you were so smart to invest in Bitcoin. Just in the same way that we look back on people who bought Bitcoin 5 years ago today. Mistake number 2, not doing any research. The tough reality is that far too many investors remain scared of Bitcoin because they do not understand it. I get it. New technology is, well, new. You haven't encountered it before. But staying in the dark about Bitcoin only means that you are missing out on a massive opportunity. At its simplest, Bitcoin is digital gold, or magic internet money, if you will. But Bitcoin is also a highly complex bit of computer code supported by a global network of computers forming a digital ledger of accounts. Fully understanding what Bitcoin is and all the applications of Bitcoin can take many, many hours of research, and honestly, whole books have been written about the many intricacies of Bitcoin. But the good news is that you do not have to be a master of everything related to Bitcoin to be able to buy and to profit from Bitcoin. Just in the same way that you do not have to fully understand all the complex ways in which your smartphone works to be able to use your smartphone. But any potential investor into Bitcoin should definitely take some time to educate themselves on just what Bitcoin is, how to buy Bitcoin safely, how to send Bitcoin without making a mistake, and how to safely store your Bitcoin, which are, by the way, some of the topics that I cover in my online course, Cryptocurrency Explained. Not doing research. It is such a big mistake that many new investors into Bitcoin make. They get so excited, the FOMO takes over, and they do not stop and take the time to learn about what it is that they're buying. Now, this, of course, results in very costly mistakes. Let me just give you a kind of a classic example of one of the mistakes that new investors make when they come into Bitcoin, and that is getting involved in Bitcoin mining before understanding what Bitcoin mining is. Bitcoin mining is a process which creates new Bitcoin as a reward for the computers which secure the Bitcoin network. Now, Bitcoin mining has been very profitable as a business over the years for many different investors, but sadly, when new investors rush into Bitcoin, they can run into some very serious problems if they choose to mine Bitcoin, that is. Just a note, you do not need to mine Bitcoin to be able to buy and hold Bitcoin, but Bitcoin mining is an option for interested investors. Now, Bitcoin mining has been a big target for fraudsters who offer fake mining services in return for your hard-earned money. Now, this kind of fraud really relies on people's lack of understanding of how Bitcoin mining actually works. Another big mistake that new people make is running out and buying a whole bunch of Bitcoin mining hardware without doing any research on how profitable those machines are going to be. They just think, I must get those machines, I'm going to make a lot of money. Now look, there are totally reputable companies out there like Bitmain, which sell real mining hardware that you can use to earn Bitcoin. But you have got to do a lot of research before buying any machines. Bitcoin miners are loud, they're super expensive to run, they're real energy hogs. And there are a lot of extra hidden costs like power supply units that make what initially seemed like a genius idea that you're going to make a lot of money off of suddenly not so genius in practice. And all that's before, of course, even taking into account the different network conditions of the Bitcoin network that can change very fast, meaning that the machine that you buy today may not make you as much money as anticipated by the time the machine actually is delivered from China to your doorstep. So please, before putting your hard-earned money into Bitcoin, take the time to understand what it is that you are actually buying. Mistake number 3, not taking your security seriously. Another very big mistake that many new investors to Bitcoin make is not taking their security seriously enough. Yes, it's no surprise. The internet is full of bad actors who seek to rob you. Welcome to the internet, in case you're new around here. We all know this, but some simple precautions can keep your investment safe. And this is super important because most cases of Bitcoin theft or Bitcoin loss are the result of bad personal security practices by the individual. Some very common mistakes that you need to avoid as a new user of Bitcoin are the following. Do not treat a Bitcoin exchange like a bank. It is not a bank. It is a marketplace. There are many stories of exchanges getting hacked and people who were either too lazy or simply uninformed or perhaps just scared did not take personal custody of their Bitcoin. Those people lost big time because the founders ran away or the hackers got into the exchange and took it all. And of course, they didn't do a course like Cryptocurrency Explained to inform themselves of why this was so important. This makes having a wallet that you control critically serious for storing your Bitcoin. But to safely manage this wallet, you need to understand the basics of Bitcoin keys, which are like Bitcoin passwords at their simplest, and how to safely store them. Hot tip for you. Do not keep your Bitcoin keys in the cloud or any other such online environment. This is how people get hacked. Bitcoin itself, the blockchain, that cannot be hacked. But your personal wallet, if you're sloppy with storing your keys, that can be hacked. Or even worse, people enter their private keys or their secret Bitcoin password into a scam website chasing some dream of returns that just doesn't exist. That will definitely get you hacked. Please be careful. This is why it is so important to familiarize yourself with trusted wallet solutions and the benefits of using a hardware wallet. Bitcoin makes you your own bank, which is absolutely amazing. But also, you need to understand how to ensure that your vault door is properly locked. Mistake number 4, thinking that you need to buy one whole Bitcoin. And this is the final point. Bitcoin is worth a lot of money. Like, seriously, a lot of money. The price is now in the many thousands of dollars, around $8,000 at the time that I recorded this video. Bitcoin has soared over the last few years, gaining nearly 100% in 2019 alone. And many analysts are saying that the next few years could be some of Bitcoin's best years. But that large price tag of many thousands of dollars can make many investors think that, well, Bitcoin's just too expensive. I can't afford to buy one whole Bitcoin. And that it seems that I've missed all the opportunity here. That is not true. There is still an incredible amount of opportunity with Bitcoin, and in actual fact, you can buy just a small fraction of a Bitcoin. Bitcoin is divisible into 100 million parts. So one Bitcoin is divisible into 100 million different little parts. So it is very common, for example, for many investors to just buy 0.01 Bitcoin or 1 million Satoshis, as the smallest unit of Bitcoin is called. Just do it every week when they get paid. Bitcoin also has a limited supply. There will never be more than 21 million Bitcoin, meaning that there is still a lot of room for Bitcoin to grow, with many analysts predicting Bitcoin to cross over the $100,000 mark in the coming years. Which leads me to the most common regret that I hear about Bitcoin, which is that investors did not buy Bitcoin sooner. The old saying goes, the best time to buy Bitcoin was yesterday. The second best time to buy Bitcoin is today. Just buying and holding Bitcoin has made incredible financial gains for investors over the last few years. And over the next few years, Bitcoin will likely make incredible gains for a whole new group of investors who were brave enough to take the leap and to buy Bitcoin and to follow the lead of some of the world's biggest companies and most successful and respected investors by getting off of zero and making your first Bitcoin purchase. Bitcoin is not a get-rich-quick scheme. And if you are expecting to get rich overnight from Bitcoin, then I have some bad news for you because that is not how it works. Bitcoin is an investment with a long-term reward. Countless people have already secured their long-term financial freedom by buying Bitcoin. Countless more people will secure their long-term financial freedom as well by buying Bitcoin today and then holding on to it for the years to come. Will you be one of those people, or will you be the person regretting that they didn't buy Bitcoin when they watched a webinar about Bitcoin a few years ago? The choice, of course, is ultimately yours. But if you have made it this far into the webinar, then congratulations, because you now know a lot more about Bitcoin than the average Joe on the street is going to know about Bitcoin. But there is so much more to learn. Where can I safely buy Bitcoin? What wallet do I need to safely store my Bitcoin? How can I send Bitcoin without making a mistake? How can I safely mine Bitcoin? What are the resources that I need to succeed in Bitcoin investing? How can I make a passive income with Bitcoin? Imagine having one whole Bitcoin securely in your wallet. A Bitcoin that you bought yourself, piece by piece, over time. Imagine being a part of this unique group of savvy investors that have this rare asset as part of their portfolio. The next logical step for you is to take educating yourself about Bitcoin seriously and to invest in your education. I have specifically designed a course to help beginners just like you get into Bitcoin. It is a course designed for beginner cryptocurrency investors to help you feel confident about buying cryptocurrency and to give you all of the information that you need to know for success in investing in crypto. No prior knowledge of crypto is needed to do this course. I will take you from step one forward. You will learn the basics of what Bitcoin and Ethereum are. You will get step-by-step tutorials on how to buy Bitcoin, how to send Bitcoin, how to store Bitcoin. You will get advice on the safest wallets to use. You will get top resources that you are going to need to be able to succeed in investing in crypto, as well as my top tips to ensure your long-term investing success. This course is not going to overload you with technical details, so don't worry about that. It is a very practical, tutorial-focused course intended to get you straight into action, armed with what you need to know without all of the confusing information that you just don't need to know as a beginner. This course is also not a get-rich-quick scheme. So if you clicked on this webinar expecting to get rich quick, then sorry, but this is probably not for you. I am sharing knowledge that will help you practically achieve long-term investing goals. I've made this course with you in mind. It is the exact kind of course that I wish I had had when I started Bitcoin investing. I personally spent way too much time researching and trying to find reliable information online. And you know what? It resulted in a complete overload of information, a big waste of time, and also led to many very silly and very costly mistakes that could have easily been avoided if I'd just taken a little bit more time to educate myself and to do a course like this one. This course is a concise compilation of everything that you need to get started. This is an investment in yourself that will take you from Bitcoin novice to being able to confidently take your first steps into buying Bitcoin and into Bitcoin investing. There is a link down below where you can get signed up. I hope that you won't miss out on Bitcoin. Make sure that you strongly consider adding Bitcoin to your investing portfolio and to educate yourself on this very exciting asset class. Invest in learning about Bitcoin. And whether you do it with me or with someone else, Bitcoin is something that you should not miss out on. It is the money of the internet, and it is one of the hottest trends happening in money and in investing right now. Just imagine having one whole Bitcoin in your portfolio and what that will be in 5 years for you. It is time for you to get off zero and to take action.